Okay guys, Veridin here, and I'm going to bring you a Frost Death Knight PvP build. I'm going to cover gems, enchants, glyphs that I use, the talent build that I use, and pretty much the burst rotation that I do. And I'm going to try to make it quick, because I can only do a 10-minute video without having like 100 plus subscribers or something like that. So anyway, here we go. I'm in full Ruthless gear, including my bracers, belt, boots, you know the works. With the helm, I went with 54 strength and 3% increased critical effect, and the 40 strength gem. And a lot of you will say, well, why the 3% increased critical effect? That's so when your killing machine does not proc, you can still get some high hits off. And it's reforged, and I reforge everything toward mastery. I'm mastery build for the extra frost damage. My necklace I kept as is. There was nothing special to be done with it. With the hit rating, that was an increase, and you want to hit the 5% hit chance because you don't want to miss. Shoulders, I went 50 strength, 25 resil enchant, and the 40 strength gem, and again it's reforged to mastery. Cloak, I went with 70 spell pen. You could also replace that for a mastery enchant, something to increase your damage. I went with spell pen for when those paladins want to drop, resistance aura or something. With my chest, I went 40 strength for my red gem, and I went a 20 strength, 20 resil gem. The only reason I followed the socket bonus for this one is for the 20 resilience rating, and that is a must-have in 3's arena. With my bracers, I did the 50 strength gem. Strength is probably your best attribute, followed by mastery, and it should stick around that. Gloves, I went 20 mastery, 20 hit. I used the 20 hit so I could hit my hit cap and be at 5%. And the 20 mastery, obviously, for the increased frost damage. With my belt, I went 60 stamina. The only reason I did that is for the plus 10 strength for the socket bonus, and a little extra health, for little clutch situations. For my legs, I went all out. I went plus 40 strength for both. I wanted to increase my damage output as best I could. Boots, 20 strength, 20 resil, and I went with the Lava Walker enchant, which is 35 mastery and a minor movement in speed. And I'll tell you how that stacks with something else here in a minute. Trinkets, I'm a night elf, so I had to get the Ruthless Gladiator's Medallion of Tenacity. That way I could, be able to trinket out of stuff. And I have my Vicious Gladiator's Badge of Victory. With my relic, I went Reforged Mastery and put a plus 40 Mastery rating gem in there. Try to get my mastery as high as I could. With my sword, I did run with Landslide for the longest time, because Landslide worked with my one-shot macro. But I found Rune of the Fallen Crusader to help a lot more, especially if you run 2v2s and run with a DPS. It'll give you a little bit of heal. It's not much, but it's enough to kind of add like a damage absorption. You hit a rogue, you heal for 3k, they hit you for 5k, so really you reduce 3k of the damage that they dealt to you. Alright? So, I'm going to cover talents. And my talent, people will say, oh, that's not good, but I don't care. Obviously, Runic Power Mastery, you want the increased maximum Runic Power by 30. Icy Reach, your Icy Touch, Chains of Ice, Howling Blast, extra 10 yards, that's needed. Annihilation, 45% increase to Obliterate, which is one of your main abilities. Lichborn, which can be used for Sap, Charm, Fear, and Sleep, extremely good, and also I'll show you a macro that allows you to heal with it. On a Pale Horse, people will tell you it's not very good, but the duration of movement slowing effects used against you is reduced by 30%, and that's needed in arena so you can get on a healer DPS and stay on them. Endless Winter. I know you have everything you need to build up the runic power you need, but it never hurts to be able to use a move and it not take away your runic power. It gives you more to be able to Frost Strike spam, any of that. Killing Machine is probably the most important talent point that you have. It gives you a chance to grant a 100% critical strike bonus to your next Obliterator Frost Strike. It occurs more often than Killing Machine rank 2, obviously. That's going to proc as much as you can, or as often as possible, and will proc even better while in Unholy Presence. Guaranteed crits. Chains of Ice, Howling Blast, Icy Touch, and Obliterate generate 10 additional runic power. Again, that builds up for your Frost Strike spam. Merciless Combat, Howling Blast, Obliterate, Icy Touch, and Frost Strike do an additional 12% damage when striking targets with less than 35% health. That's really good in Arena when you want a clutch victory and you've got to burst this person down really fast. Rhyme, 45% chance to cause your next Howling Blast or Icy Touch to consume no runes when you use Obliterate. Pillar of Frost increases Death Knight strength by 20%, and you're immune to external movement such as knockbacks. Improved Icy Talons increases melee and range attack speed. That's needed. More Killing Machine procs. Now with Brittle Bones, I only put 1 point into it, so it increases my strength by 2%, and your Frost Fever chills the bones of its victims, increasing their physical damage taken by 2%. I didn't put the other point in there because I figured I could mix and put it also into Improved Frost Presence. Now I won't run in Frost Presence, but with the 1 point in here, while in Blood Presence or Unholy Presence, you retain 2% increased runic power generation from Frost Presence, so there's less downtime. Hunger and Cold is pretty much your major form of CC, and you'll freeze anybody within 10 yards, and it's a 1.5 second cast, so it's good when you want to like Death Grip a healer into it, something like that. Chillbanes, victims of your Frost Fever disease are chilled, reducing movement speed by 50% for 10 seconds, and your Chains of Ice immobilizes targets for 3 seconds. That's for those aggravating classes like a Hunter or Mage that try to kite you, gives you a chance to get on them. When wielding a two-handed weapon, your melee attacks deal an additional 10% damage, and your auto attacks have a 45% chance to generate 10 runic power. Now, I find using a two-handed sword better for arena purposes, because although with dual-wielding one-handed weapons, you will hit faster, which means more Killing Machine procs, but for the most part, you're usually not just standing toe-to-toe like in PvE and trading blows with somebody. So you need to do the damage you can, as best you can, when you're on them, and in probably a 5-second burst, which is what I can usually get off on a Hunter here and there, you know, I'd rather be hitting him for a 36k crit than a 13k crit with a Killing Machine blow. Howling Blast, it's Icy Touch but better. It'll hit everybody within 10 yards and inflicts them all with Frost Fever, which is a great thing. Now I went into Unholy Command because of the cooldown of your Death Grip ability being reduced by 10 seconds. The rest of it is good for BGs, you know, kill somebody, it's refreshed. But with the 10-second reduction, it gives you more of a chance to get onto a Hunter or Mage, something like that. Virulence, whatever it is, increases the damage done by your diseases by 20%. I didn't go it all out because I wanted to put 1 point into Epidemic, which increases the duration of Blood Plague and Frost Fever by 4 seconds. Gives you a little bit more time to where you don't have to worry about using Plague Strike or, you know, to reapply your diseases. It gives you a little bit more time. The reason I went to Unholy was for this, really, though. Your Plague, Scourge, and Necrotic Strikes defile the ground within 70 yards of your target. Enemies in the area are slowed by 50% while standing on the unholy ground. Very good. You know, you'll run into those irritating druids, and all they're going to do is you're going to Chains of Ice, and they're going to shapeshift and get out of it. Well, with this, they can't shapeshift out of the slow. No matter what, they will be slowed. Now Paladin's going to Hand of Freedom, but that's besides the point. We're going to talk about glyphs. I use the Glyph of Death Coil, which increases the damage or healing done by Death Coil by 15%. The reason I do this is for the macro that I use, which is actually right here, which pops Lichborn and targets myself. I'm undead, so I can heal myself with Death Coil. And for the 9 seconds, whatever that it lasts, I'll spam Runic Power and Death Coil myself. I went with Obliterate, which has increased 20% damage, which, when combined with this, is a 65% damage increase to Obliterate. Huge damage output. Howling Blast now affects your targets with Frost Fever. Again, very good move. Glyph of AMS increases the duration of your anti-magic shell by 2 seconds. Needed. Glyph of Hunger and Cold. Hunger and Cold no longer costs Runic Power. Again, like I said, you have everything you need to build Runic Power, but it's better to have moves that don't cost any. Strangulate, when you silence somebody mid-cast, it adds an extra 2 seconds onto the silence. Great against healers if you can time it right. Resilient Grip, when your Death Grip ability fails because its target is immune, its cooldown is reset. So when a healer, you know, let's say you trigger finger to pull a H-Pally to you, but he popped Divine Shield, so he's immune. Guess what? It's reset. You can then wait until the shield's gone and get back on him. Glyph of Path of Frost, just fall from greater distance without suffering damage. Actually, the reason I got that is because in Arathi Basin, jumping, you know, cliff to cliff, stuff like that, take less damage. And then Horn of Winter increases the duration of your Horn of Winter by 1 minute. Less, you know, more time to have that damage increase, which is really helpful. Now, this is the build that I use, and how it comes out is my base strength with Horn of Winter active is 5,768. And my attack power is 11,771. Now I'm going to show you my one-shot macro real quick and see what it does. Has increased my strength to 9,227. My attack power is now at 18,689. But anyway, subscribe if you like this video, if you like the build that I did, and try it out. Anybody who wants, trying out a Frost DK. I will try to put more videos out, and hopefully I can get subscribers and I can do full-length PvP videos. If not, I will try to do arena in matches that will not last longer than 10 minutes. And I thank you.